In 2005, a teenage winger made his Champions League debut for Barcelona. He was 5'6", weighed less than most midfielders' left legs, and had exactly 0 stepovers in his repertoire. The pundits were polite about it. Talented, they said, but too small, too fragile, too simple. Meanwhile, Cristiano Ronaldo was doing things fancy stepovers. The same goes for Robinho, and Ronaldinho was playing a different sport entirely. So, how did the kid who couldn't do a stepover become the greatest footballer who ever lived? Lionel Andres Messi was born on the 24th of June 1987 in Rosario, Argentina. Not Buenos Aires, where the money lived. Not Córdoba, where the scouts occasionally glanced. Rosario, a port city on the Parana River, famous for producing two things: the Argentine flag and football players with something to prove. His father Jorge worked at a steel factory. His mother Celia cleaned houses. His grandmother Celia, the woman who would become the most important figure in his early life, was the one who first dragged him to football training at the age of 4. He cried the entire way there. Then he got on the pitch, touched the ball and didn't cry again for about 20 years. By the age of 6, Messi was playing for Grandoli, a local youth club coached by his father. By 8, he'd moved to Newell's Old Boys, one of the most respected academies in Argentine football. And by the time he was 10, something had become very clear to everyone who watched him play. He wasn't doing what the other kids were doing. While his teammates practiced stepovers and scissors and rainbow flicks, the things that made parents clap and scouts nod, Messi was doing something else entirely. He was running straight at defenders, with the ball glued to his left foot, as if it had been stitched there by someone who didn't want it back. No elaborate wind-up, no theatrical body feint, just a shift of weight, a drop of the shoulder so subtle you'd miss it on replay, and then acceleration. Pure, devastating, almost offensive acceleration. The kind that made defenders look like they'd been asked to guard a door that wasn't there anymore. There's a story from his time at Newell's that has become legend in Rosario. During a youth tournament, a referee allegedly stopped a match mid-game to tell the opposing coach that there was nothing he could do about the boy on the other team. The ref said it apologetically, as if delivering bad news about a medical diagnosis. That one, he pointed, that one is different. But there was a problem, a very literal one. At 11 years old, Messi was diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency. His body wasn't producing enough of the hormones needed to grow at a normal rate. The treatment cost around $900 a month. His family couldn't afford it. Newell's Old Boys, the club that had watched this kid destroy entire youth leagues, refused to cover it. River Plate showed interest, then backed away from the cost. The greatest young footballer in Argentina was being priced out by his own biology. Let that equation settle for a second. The most talented child footballer Argentina had produced in a generation needed medical treatment to keep growing, and nobody wanted to pay. Nobody in Argentina, anyway.
Hey everyone! This video is sponsored by OK Jersey, rated an impressive 4.5 stars on Trustpilot. Fans love them for high-quality jerseys, great prices, only £15, and super fast delivery. They offer a huge selection of new season, retro, and even upcoming World Cup kits. Use code MAUS at checkout to get 8% off your order. Don't wait. Go check them out.
In September 2000, a 13-year-old Lionel Messi and his father boarded a plane to Barcelona. The story of what happened next has become one of football's founding myths. So let's separate fact from legend. Fact: Carles Rexach, Barcelona's sporting director, agreed to watch Messi in a trial. Fact: the trial was so impressive that Rexach wanted to sign him immediately. Also fact: the only piece of paper available at the moment was a napkin. So, the first contract between Lionel Messi and FC Barcelona was written on a paper napkin in a restaurant. You genuinely cannot make this up. The greatest footballer in history signed his first professional contract on something most people use to wipe marinara sauce off their chin. That napkin, by the way, is now preserved in a museum, marinara status unconfirmed. Messi entered La Masia, Barcelona's legendary youth academy. And this is where the story gets interesting. Not because Messi became great at La Masia, he was already great. What La Masia did was give him a language for what he was already doing instinctively. Barcelona's philosophy, the one Johan Cruyff had embedded into the club's DNA decades earlier, was built on a radical idea. The ball does the work. You don't need to beat your man with tricks. You beat him by being in the right place at the right time, by understanding space the way a chess player understands the board. Possession, movement, geometry. The ball moves faster than any player ever could, so let the ball do the running. Every other club in the world was teaching wingers to be entertainers. Barcelona was teaching them to be architects. And Messi, the kid who never bothered with stepovers, fit like a key into a lock that had been waiting for him for decades. His dribbling wasn't flashy because it didn't need to be. It was efficient. He took the ball, he identified the gap, and he went through it. No decoration, no performance, just the most direct route between where he was and where the defense didn't want him to be. The adjustment wasn't easy though. Messi was homesick, desperately homesick. His mother and siblings went back to Rosario, and for months the boy who could solve any problem on a pitch couldn't solve the silence of a foreign apartment. His father stayed with him, but the absence of his mother nearly broke him. He barely spoke to his teammates. He barely spoke at all. But then he'd train, and on the training pitch, words weren't necessary. The youth coaches at La Masia noticed something that set him apart from every other talented kid who had come through those doors. He played with his head up. That sounds basic. It's not. At 13, 14, 15 years old, most young dribblers are staring at the ball. They're thinking about their feet. Messi was thinking about the space 2 passes ahead. He could see the shape of the defense, feel the shift in pressure, and make decisions at a speed that made coaches rewind training footage just to confirm what they thought they'd seen. His growth hormone treatment was now covered by Barcelona. He was growing, slowly, but growing. And while his body caught up to his age, his mind had already lapped everyone in the building. By 16, he was training with the first team. Frank Rijkaard, Barcelona's manager at the time, had to be physically restrained from including him in the squad earlier. By 17, Messi made his La Liga debut against Espanyol. And on the 1st of May 2005, at the age of 17 years, 10 months, and 7 days, Lionel Messi scored his first goal for FC Barcelona. The assist came from a player named Ronaldinho, who, by the way, picked up the teenager and carried him on his back to celebrate. Ronaldinho knew. He could see what was coming. The Brazilian magician, at the absolute peak of his powers, looked at this quiet Argentine teenager and recognized that his own reign had an expiration date, and he smiled about it. Because that's what Ronaldinho did. The rest of the world was about to find out. Here is what a winger was supposed to look like in 2006. Tall, fast, tricky. A player who hugged the touchline, whipped in crosses, and spent most of the match in a one-on-one duel with a fullback. The great wingers of that era, Cristiano Ronaldo, Robinho, and Quaresma, all shared a common trait. They wanted you to watch. They wanted the crowd to gasp. The stepover wasn't just a tool. It was a statement. I am here. I am better than you. And I'm going to prove it in the most humiliating way possible. Messi didn't do any of that. He didn't hug the touchline. He drifted inside, constantly pulling towards the center of the pitch, finding pockets of space between the lines that didn't appear on any tactical diagram because they didn't exist until he created them. He didn't cross the ball, he carried it. He didn't duel with fullbacks. He made fullbacks, centre-backs, and occasionally entire midfields chase him like confused dogs, chasing a car that keeps changing direction. And he didn't do stepovers. This needs to be understood properly, because it's the foundation of everything that follows. Messi's dribbling was not a simplified version of what other wingers did. It was a completely different discipline, a completely different philosophy. Other players used tricks to create uncertainty. Messi used certainty. He knew exactly where he was going. The defender knew where he was going. Everyone in the stadium knew where he was going. Left foot, cut inside, accelerate. And nobody could stop it. Not once. Not consistently. Not in 18 years of professional football. The biomechanics of what Messi does when he dribbles have actually been studied by sports scientists at universities in Spain and Argentina. His center of gravity sits so low that his changes of direction generate almost no wasted momentum. Where a taller player needs 2 or 3 steps to shift weight and redirect, Messi does it in 1. His first touch doesn't just control the ball. It sets up the next 3 moves simultaneously. The ball arrives at his foot and is instantly repositioned to the exact angle and distance required for whatever comes next. There's a famous clip from a 2007 Copa del Rey semi-final against Getafe where Messi picks the ball up in his own half and runs past 5 players to score. 5. Starting from his own half. He doesn't do a single trick. Not one. He changes direction 4 times, each time with a shift so small it barely registers on camera. But each shift is perfectly timed to exploit the split second where the defender has committed their weight in the wrong direction. The goal was immediately compared to Maradona's legendary strike against England in 1986. Messi was 19 years old. He hadn't even started yet. It looks simple. It looks like something any quick player with decent balance could do. It is, in reality, the most complex piece of individual football ever performed, because it requires processing 5 separate defensive decisions in real time, predicting each one correctly, and executing the response within a window of roughly 0.2 of a second. Per defender. Multiply that by 5, in front of 90,000 people, at full sprint, while also knowing exactly where the goal is, where the goalkeeper is standing, and which corner of the net has the highest probability of going in. Simple, right? Pep Guardiola, who became Messi's manager in 2008 and built one of the greatest club sides in history around him, later described what it was like to watch him up close. He said it was like watching someone play a video game where they already knew the script. He sees things before they happen, Guardiola explained. Not 1 second before, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. By the time you notice the space, he is already leaving it. And that, fundamentally, is why the step-over was irrelevant. A step-over is a tool for creating confusion. Messi didn't need to create confusion because he was operating on a completely different timeline than his opponents. He wasn't reacting to the defense. The defense was reacting to him. And by the time they reacted, they were already beaten. The trick, if you can call it that, had already happened, in his head, before his foot even touched the ball. Between 2006 and 2012, Messi won 4 consecutive Ballon d'Or awards. 4 in a row. During an era when Cristiano Ronaldo, Xavi Hernandez, and Andres Iniesta were all playing some of the best football of their lives. In 2012, he scored 91 goals in a single calendar year. 91. A number so absurd that when it was announced, people assumed it was a typo. Gerd Müller's record of 85 goals, which had stood for 4 decades and was considered untouchable, didn't just get broken, it got embarrassed. And he did it all without a single step over. What happened next is the part of the Messi story that doesn't get talked about enough. Because most people, when they think of Messi's greatness, think of the dribbling, the goals, the magical left foot, and all of that is real. But the thing that separated Messi from every other brilliant footballer who ever lived wasn't what he could do with the ball at his feet. It was what happened when he stopped doing it. Sometime around 2014 and 2015, Messi began to evolve. Not gradually, rapidly, almost violently, as if he'd decided overnight that being the greatest dribbler and scorer in history simply wasn't enough, and he needed a second career inside the same one. He stopped running. Not literally. But the statistics told a story that confused analysts and fans alike. Messi's distance covered per match dropped significantly. His sprint numbers fell off a cliff. He was walking a lot. More than most midfielders, More than some goalkeepers, more than seemed reasonable for someone earning the salary of a small nation's GDP. The lazy narrative wrote itself. Messi is declining. He doesn't have the legs anymore. Age is catching up. Commentators said it during matches. Pundits said it on panel shows. Rival fans put the clips on social media with laughing emojis. The hot take machine was fully operational. They were all wrong. Magnificently, spectacularly, historically wrong. What Messi had done was something that almost never happens in football. He had fundamentally re-engineered his game from the ground up, while still being the best player in the world. That's like rebuilding an airplane engine mid-flight while also serving drinks in first class. The explosive dribbler who used to pick up the ball in his own half and run at 6 defenders had evolved into something far more dangerous. A playmaker, a conductor, a footballer who didn't need to beat you with pace because he'd already beaten you with his mind 3 passes ago. His passing range exploded. Messi had always been a capable passer, but now he was threading balls through defensive lines that shouldn't have been possible from his position on the pitch. Balls that curved around centre-backs and arrived at a teammate's feet with the timing of a Swiss watch. Not when the receiver was ready, but when the space was at its most vulnerable. The distinction matters. A good pass finds a player. A Messi pass finds a moment. In the 2014-15 season, he led La Liga in assists. The following season, he did it again. The greatest goalscorer of his generation was now also the greatest chance creator. This isn't supposed to happen. It violates the basic laws of football specialization. Goalscorers score goals, playmakers create them. You don't get to be both. That's like being the best actor and the best director and the best screenwriter simultaneously, while also winning awards for cinematography. It's not how the system is designed to work. Messi violated the design anyway. The system filed a complaint. Nobody read it. And the walking, that was the most intelligent part. By conserving energy during dead passages of play, Messi ensured that when he did move, when he did accelerate, it was with maximum explosive power. He had turned himself into a weapon that only fired when the shot was guaranteed to land. Defenders couldn't mark him because he gave them nothing to mark. He was just standing there, standing and watching, reading the game like a book he'd already finished twice. Then, in one moment, one sudden burst, he would receive the ball, play a pass that tore apart the entire defensive structure, or dribble past 3 players as if they'd been nailed to the grass, and walk back to the center circle while the net was still rippling. The great Brazilian defender, Dani Alves, who played alongside Messi for years at Barcelona, once said that trying to anticipate what Messi would do was pointless. Just make the run, Alves said. He will find you. He always finds you. Even when you don't think you're open, he sees a gap that doesn't exist yet. And by the time he plays the ball, it does. In the 2018-19 season, Messi scored 51 goals and provided 22 assists across all competitions. He was 31 years old. Most players at that age are negotiating moves to the MLS or planning their coaching badges. Messi was having one of the greatest individual seasons in the history of team sport. And he was doing it while walking for large portions of every match. The mutation was complete. The winger who couldn't do stepovers had become a false 9, a deep-lying playmaker, and a goal-scoring machine, all at the same time, inside the same body, controlled by a brain that processed football at a speed no one had seen before and may never see again. But there was a problem, and everyone knew what it was. For all the Ballon d'Ors, for all the Champions League titles, for all the individual records that had been shattered, rewritten, and then shattered again, there was one trophy that kept slipping away. One tournament where the narrative refused to cooperate. One ghost that followed him across every international break and every summer tournament, like a debt that accrued interest with every passing year. The World Cup. Argentina had become Messi's burden. A national team that somehow always had enough talent to raise expectations and never quite enough to meet them. And Messi, the quiet kid from Rosario who had left for Barcelona at 13, bore the weight of it like a man carrying a piano up a staircase with no end. The 2014 World Cup final in Brazil, Argentina versus Germany, the Maracana. Messi was named player of the tournament. He walked up to collect the Golden Ball trophy with an expression that suggested someone had handed him a parking ticket at his own wedding. His team had lost 1-0 inches extra time. Gonzalo Higuain had missed a clear chance that still haunts Argentine nightmares. The individual award felt like a consolation prize wrapped in barbed wire. The image of Messi standing alone on that podium, hands by his sides, staring at the trophy he couldn't touch, became one of the defining photographs of his career. Not because it showed defeat, because it showed a man who understood with perfect clarity that being the best player in the tournament wasn't the same as winning it, not even close. Copa America, 2015. Final, Argentina versus Chile. Full time, 0-0. Extra time, 0-0. Penalties, Argentina lost. Messi watched from the center circle as Chile celebrated on Argentine soil. Copa America, 2016. Centennial edition, the 100th anniversary of the tournament. Final, Argentina versus Chile. Again, penalties. Again, Argentina lost. Again. This time, Messi missed his penalty, blasted it over the bar. The 100th anniversary of the tournament and Argentina's greatest ever player skied his penalty into the New Jersey night sky. He retired from international football that evening, announced it in the dressing room, walked away from the national team at 29 years old, broken by the repetition of almost but not quite. 3 finals in 3 years, 3 defeats. The cruelty of it was almost artistic. He came back, of course. He always came back. But the criticism followed him like a shadow that grew longer with every passing year. He can't do it for Argentina. He only performs at Barcelona. He's not a leader. He doesn't have the fire. And the comparison that cut deepest of all, Maradona won the World Cup. Messi can't. Maradona, Diego, the ghost that haunted every step. The man who had dragged an ordinary Argentine team to World Cup glory in 1986 through sheer force of will, personality, and a hand he swore belonged to God. Maradona was fire. Messi was ice. And in Argentina, a country that bleeds passion, fire wins the argument every single time. Then came 2021. Copa America, played in Brazil because the original hosts pulled out. Argentina versus Brazil in the final, at the Maracana, in Neymar's backyard. The symbolism was almost too heavy to carry. And Messi, now 34, with grey in his beard and a decade of international heartbreak behind him, walked onto that pitch looking like a man who had made peace with the possibility that this might not work, but was going to try anyway. One more time. Messi didn't score in the final, didn't need to. Angel Di Maria scored the winner with a chip so delicate it should have been served on fine china. But Messi had carried the entire tournament on his shoulders. 4 goals, 5 assists, player of the tournament, and a level of desperation that was visible in every touch, every tackle, every moment where he chased a ball he had no business chasing. When the final whistle blew, he collapsed to the pitch, face down, and wept. Otamendi reached him first, then Di Maria, then the rest. They piled on top of him like children on a parent who just came home. It was the first senior international trophy of his career. He was 34 years old, but it wasn't the World Cup. And everyone, Messi included, knew this story didn't have an ending yet. The 18th of December, 2022, Lusail Stadium, Qatar, the FIFA World Cup final, Argentina versus France. What followed was the greatest football match ever played. And I don't say that lightly. I say it because there is genuinely no argument against it. Every neutral expert, every former player, every tactical analyst who watched it live has struggled to name a match that comes close. Messi scored in the 23rd minute from the penalty spot. Cool, precise. The ball placed exactly where Hugo Lloris couldn't reach it. Argentina were dominant. Ousmane Dembele was being folded inside out by Nahuel Molina. The French midfield was invisible. By half-time, it was 2-0 after a stunning team goal finished by Di Maria. And the script was perfect. Too perfect. The football gods had been watching, and they had a sick sense of humour. Kylian Mbappé scored twice in 97 seconds, the 80th minute and the 81st. 2 goals in less than 2 minutes to drag France level at 2-2 and send an entire nation's collective cardiovascular system into emergency shutdown. A World Cup final that had been a coronation ceremony turned into a horror film in the time it takes to make a cup of tea. Mbappé, 23 years old, moving at a speed that suggested he had somewhere more important to be, had single-handedly rewritten the match. Extra time, the 108th minute. Messi poked the ball over the line from close range after Lloris saved his initial shot. 3-2. Messi wheeled away, arms spread, eyes wide, looking like a man who had just outrun death itself. Surely this was it. Mbappé completed his hat-trick from the penalty spot in the 118th minute. 3-3. A hat-trick in a World Cup final. The audacity was almost offensive. Extra time ended. Penalties. Messi walked to the spot first. Of course he did. He placed the ball, stepped back, and scored. Calm, precise, as if he were passing the ball to a friend in the park. As if this wasn't the biggest penalty kick in the history of the sport. As if his entire legacy didn't rest on the next half second of his life. Argentina won the shootout 4-2. Gonzalo Montiel scored the decisive penalty. And Lionel Messi, at 35 years old, in what everyone understood might be his last World Cup match, had done it. The one thing that was supposed to be impossible. The one thing the critics said would never happen. The one thing that separated him from the conversation about who was truly, finally, unarguably, the greatest. He lifted the trophy. He wore a bisht, a traditional Arab robe, draped over his shoulders by the Emir of Qatar. And he stood there, in the middle of that pitch, with confetti falling around him like the universe had finally, after 35 years, exhaled. Somewhere in Rosario, in a neighborhood where the streets are too narrow for buses and the walls are still painted with his face, a grandmother's grandson had just become immortal. The woman who dragged a crying 4-year-old to his first football practice would never see it. She died in 1998, when Leo was 10. But if the romantics are right, and the people who love us never truly leave, then she already knew. She knew at Granderley. She knew at Newell's. She knew the first time he touched the ball and stopped crying. The kid from Rosario who couldn't do a step over had won everything there was to win. Every trophy, every record, every argument. Here's what most people get wrong about Lionel Messi. They think his simplicity was a limitation, that he succeeded despite not having tricks in his locker, that he compensated for a lack of flair with work rate or intelligence or some mystical, unexplainable connection to the football. The truth is the opposite. The simplicity was the advantage. Every step over, every elastico, every rainbow flick that other players spent hours perfecting was a fraction of a second lost. A moment of theatre that served the player's ego, not the team's purpose. Messi never wasted a fraction of a second in his life. Every touch had a purpose. Every run had a destination. Every pass had a recipient who didn't even know they were about to receive it. He didn't need to trick defenders because he'd already solved them, not with his feet, with his mind, before the ball even arrived. And that is why a winger who couldn't do stepovers became the greatest player who ever lived. Not because greatness requires complexity, but because true greatness is knowing exactly what to leave out. If you want to follow the story of why Company's Bayern is a nightmare for Europe, check out our video here.